Driver Down the Road, written by marvelous Marvin Mahaney. Distribution blues. I know that kind of blues. It's called Get Some Distribution Knowledge and You Won't Be So Bluesy. The Marvelous Marvin Presents has got a whole slate of shows coming up this month at the Old Courthouse Tavern and Lafayette Bontemps right here in Fayetteville, Georgia. He's bringing the blues to the South Side, and he ain't dead yet. For more information, hit Marvin up on IG or Facebook, The Marvelous Marvin Mahaney. Just remember, Triple M with a T. And, well, hello and welcome to the Weekly Read, live and uncut. I am Sean Reed. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe at the bottom of the screen, and comment right now. There are new videos on the craft, business, and art of indie movie making right here on the Jay Horton YouTube channel. I call him Jason. What's up, Jason?
Hey, how's it going? Good to be here.
How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm good. Fine. You're happy to be here.
You're in one piece. He's happy to be in one place.
Yeah, yeah. Happy to be in one place and one piece.
So I see that beautiful, big old, gorgeous Craving poster there filling up your back wall. Yes. Can you tell us how Craving is doing? How is the crowdfunder going?
Yeah, the crowdfunder for Craving is doing really well. We're about to pass 300 contributors, and we're really close to $40,000 raised so far. It's going really well. Like I couldn't have, I had a feeling it was going to do pretty good, but I had no idea the amount of support that we would get. It's humbling.
Well, excellent. We're really glad to see the progress and to be watching it so closely. So it's been great to watch. And so if you haven't contributed yet, you can find Craving on Indiegogo or go through the Facebook page and you will find all kinds of information. What's the name of the group they need to go to, Jason?
Craving Behind the Screams is the Facebook group, and the URL for the crowdfunder is www.cravingmovie.com. Very simple.
Excellent. And we, by the way, thanks for asking, are very close to completing our rollout for World One TV. I can almost taste it. You're going to be able to get that free month and experience all those great Zapruder flicks, New Cinema Tribe, and all the other great things we have. So can't wait to check it out. We'll probably have more information on that. We have a Facebook, a LinkedIn, and all those other great things. So check us out, World One TV. World One TV, One World is our Facebook group. And for those watching live,
hi, Joe.
Feel free. Hey, Joe, how's it going, buddy? Feel free to ask a question on or off topic, or to just say hi, just like Joe did. We like to know that you're there. This is the history of film distribution, looking back to understand today the independence. January 1st, 1909, the Motion Picture Patents Company, the MPCC, also known as a patents company, formed by bringing 10 film companies: Edison, Biograph, Vitagraph, SA, Selick, Lubin, Kaleem, American Star, Klein Optical, American Path, the leading distributor, George Klein, and the biggest supplier of raw film, Eastman Kodak. And of course, Thomas Edison owned most of the major patents relating to motion pictures, including that of raw film. By 1910, the General Film Company, a key middleman which purchased studio films and then leased them to theaters, making a strong cartel, even stronger, and everyone making money. The first stumbling block came in February 1911 when Kodak, who did not have a profit interest in the cartel, exploited a clause in the original agreement and began to sell film stock to local independents. Talk about a barrier of entry to the real definition of a gatekeeper. Jason, you couldn't even get film. Would you even have wanted to try to get in? Would you keep trying on this one?
Yeah, I can't even imagine. Like the way things are open today, and you hear people complaining about gatekeeping today, and I'm just like, you have no idea how hard it has been in the past. Like,
yeah, I mean, this is why I think that this is so. I wanted to circle back around in this loop and understanding how important this era was and why these names are so fundamental in our business, and how it's important to know where they come from and what this cycle has been. Where you still see now today, I think a couple weeks ago, Paramount, just this week, I think is now going back to that name. So I think it was CBS Viacom is now going back to being called Paramount. because
I
that
didn't
was
know that.
so once again you start to see, and you see them cropping up over and over again, and exploring those, knowing where those people are. So we're going to continue to do this, but I just really find that already it's like, bro, you couldn't even get some film. Okay,
Yeah.
don't even think about trying to get a camera. Okay, so you couldn't get any film, and don't even think about a camera yet. Okay, so the independents had organized into a cartel of their own, the Motion Picture Distributing and Sales Corporation, or sales company. The sales company independents were Carl Laemmle. By the way, it is Laemmle. I looked it up. It is silent and means little lamb. There's a great YouTube video and a link, because I used to say it. I've said it every single wrong way, and I've worked in this business a long time. I believe it's a granddaughter of his that actually looks it up, and it's actually listed in a book of Hollywood names to be able to, influential people to be able to do it. So that's where I found it. And she originally went and found it, which was the original writer of Strunk and White. So it goes very back far in terms of people wanting to know how to do this, and also just spending a little extra time. So I'm very happy I wrote it out. If you're trying to write it out for yourself, because if you see the spelling for me, it's Laemmle. And for some reason, I always want to say the A somewhere. But if you just go Laemmle, Lemlee, that's the way they would say it. So I think I'll always remember, and hopefully that helps with everybody else with that one. So William Fox and Adolf Zucker were well organized and very competitive. Within 8 months, they succeeded in splitting the country 50-50 between themselves and the trust. To say independent in this time as to be even more a reaction to suppression. Inevitable when someone is going to rise up and want a piece when you try to keep things exclusive like this. You can't buy film, you can't sell. These early independents did break away from the trust and the trust rules. The independents were making more than one reels, which was a rule of the trust, because the trust believed the public wouldn't sit through more than one reel. That's only 15 minutes. Jason, we've talked about this a little from the trust perspective, but of course, there had to be someone willing to make more than one reel. I mean, truly, this is a moment in time when film was fighting for more than just one set of people the way they saw it. They only made more from one perspective. What do you think, Jason? Were you fighting for one reel only, or were you more reels for reels?
Yeah, I'd want the more reels for real. But yeah, I think it's, it's a thing that we still, struggle with today. Like we want to, we want to adapt, and we want to change, and we want to put our own stamp on things. I mean, look at kind of what's happening with like streaming and running times these days. It's kind of almost the opposite. Whereas even like 10 years ago, you had this, like arbitrary, feature film had to be 75 minutes or 70 minutes or whatever it was for broadcast. But, these days with streaming platforms, and these running times become less and less like important. And now, if there are movies out there 60 minutes long that are categorized as features,
Well, I think this is in any platform or any format, because I think that we could look at even just YouTube where we are, or Instagram, or those places we are, that those are, housings of specific formats. To say, I think 5 years ago or even a year ago, you can do an hour show even on YouTube would have been saying, well, YouTube videos should be 5 or 10 minutes. Only, right? Weren't they saying that? But you find a lot of longer format, and then you're finding film. So I think it's just ultimately about finding that audience, and the audience is there for everything, I think.
Yeah.
I think the more that you have for them to consume, I think the idea of saying, oh no, don't do it because nobody will want it, put it out there, let's see if they'll want it. If they don't want it, you're going to find out pretty quickly. But having choices is something that, why not?
Yeah, I even say, like, with Quibi, I mean, Quibi was a failed experiment, but I still say that the philosophy behind it was good. I do think that there is a market out there for short form, like high-end content like that. Just maybe the timing was wrong, or the way they rolled it out was wrong, but I do think that there's a future in that kind of thing.
Well, I think really it's like, maybe it's nothing exclusive, that ultimately it's just that each streamer should be doing more of it in their own way.
Right.
I haven't necessarily found what short videos that interest me to want to put on World One yet. So we don't really have anything under, if it's not a series, where it's like a 30-minute episode, there are no 15-minute shorts, because I don't really find personally that that's something that I want. But that doesn't mean that the audience won't say it. And it's also having a collection for a reason, I think, and having it curated in some way. And so that's, I think, also, you know, maybe if I was someone who made more shorts, I would be someone more focused on that. So that's something to be open to. And that's, I think, what ultimately, I think even this move is what we're saying is like, as soon as you say don't do something, that's as soon as when it was like, well, why not? Why shouldn't we do it? If you just said, well, go ahead and do it, it would have happened and would have been fine. But they were so interested in controlling things. So in August 1912, the Motion Picture Patents Company versus IMP, Laemmle's, did I say it right? I'm going to get this right. Independent Motion Picture Company gave the independent access to formally licensed and restricted equipment. This victory put the independents on equal footing with the MPCC. By 1914, the MPCC was out of business and the so-called independents took over. So Laemmle, I didn't write it in my code on this one, founded Universal. So how could you forget that? Fox founded 20th Century Fox, and Zucker founded Paramount. One set of companies fell and another set rose to take the mantle. And by the way, for those of you watching, which I say this all the time, please feel free to ask questions on our off topic. And by the way, I use 4 sources, which they are in the show notes. I did it again, Jason. I managed to put these in here. The first one is The Independent. This is really the one I used a lot for this specific episode. CinCollege.net, Independent, as along with Film Reference Criticisms, The Economics of Film Distribution by William Jennings Byrd, and the Hays Code from the Studio Binder, which kind of plays into all of this on some level. We did focus on that last time. And the other paper, Subcinema Mapping Informal Film Distribution by Ramon Lobato. This was the opening of a new era in Hollywood. But of course, within the new system, a pecking order was established that left little to no room for a newcomer. Go figure, Jason. No room for the newcomer. At the top was the 5 major studios. So you know these names already. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, Paramount Pictures, 20th Century Fox, Warner Brothers, and RKO Pictures. Beneath them, another set that and these were the little 3 majors: Columbia Pictures, Universal Studios, and Universal Artists. So Universal still on some level that's a name that still very strongly exists today and owns as many layers under it. Some of them include, I think, United Artists and Columbia Pictures. So, you know, you see how things get eaten up. And then there was Poverty Row. Oh boy, this is, I think, where I'd probably end up. A general term used to describe any studio that managed to fight their way into the exclusive movie business. Poverty Row included Grand National, Republic Pictures, which you may remember was very famous for making a lot of the early John Wayne pictures, Monogram Pictures, Producer Releasing Corporation, aka PRC, and Majestic. Jason, I think we would have wanted to work at the studios, but would be lucky to work at Poverty Row Studio. Would you have tried going door to door to get one of these gigs? Just go down on Poverty Row? I believe Frank Capra actually did that, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think Poverty Row is pretty much like parallel to what we're doing now.
Yeah, we're pretty much on Poverty Row.
We're not studio. We're putting out a lot of pictures, probably close to or more than what studios were back then. But yeah, we're not studio level on any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think that Poverty Row being that kind of, even them describing it that way is really, it's like by hook or by crook, you're figuring it out. You're making a business out of it. One of my favorite, I think in Trumbo, I forget the name of the producers, that John Goodman plays it. And he's like, I don't care as long as that, as long as I can, as long as people are seeing my movies and I can get a hand job on Saturday night. That's all I care about. I'm not trying to make art, It's like him and his brother, and it's like that idea. Like they're in business, one way or another. So the 1920s to 1939 was a period of elite producers that included Goldwyn, Disney, Selznick, Hughes, and included Walter Wagner, John Schneck, and Daryl Zanuck. Before 20th merged with Fox Corporation and Chaplin and Pickford. These producers had their own companies and had high-cost, prestige-level films. They handled theatrically by United Artists, the main outlet for distribution of independently produced films. So thank God for United Artists. I still don't think we would have had waltzed in there and gotten a deal. What do you think? You think maybe United Artists would give us a shot?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe if we had some high-end art picture with, an all-black cast, like a musical. Maybe we bring Otto Preminger in as a director,
Mm.
package it up, maybe, somebody like Spike, Mario Van Peebles or his dad or something like that. Yeah, we'd have to have it packaged right. So,
Mm.
so this so-called independent films did not present anything different than the major studios of the era. So it was easy to dismiss them as nothing more than studio copycats made outside of the system because the producers wanted to share of the profits. But it was more than that. It maintained the state of competition, not allowing to be a small number of producers and sellers. Jason, I think you've heard me pounding on this on some level because the lack of competition and even where we are today is where where the things that we're seeing that we considered negative, a full, vertical integration where they own the production, they own the means of distribution, they own everything. So ultimately, where is the competition? Because ultimately, who suffers in that is the consumer. And there's, once again, it's harder to get in. It's harder to have that. So, do you see now a little bit more the importance of these first independents, even though they might have not necessarily artistically set the world on fire?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It seems like, it almost like even when I went through my first pass of this, and as I've looked at understanding the history of Hollywood, that it's sometimes not explained in this way, where ultimately you're seeing that this is a birth of saying, no, you have to do something this way. And that does create independence. Whether obviously some of these people had an open doorway to where they weren't necessarily just taking the check that they were being given. And some of them even felt more strongly about the fact that they needed to maintain the quality of what was being produced and the competition.
Yeah.
So independent production at the time had been based on these high quality films brought to the screen, high level production values, spectacle, and an artistic competence rather than a particular genre, style, or characterized the studio system. The next period of independent production in the studio era spanned between 1940 to 1948. This period represented a shift in the type of filmmaking and the growing demand for prestige pictures, especially during World War II years, and the growing influence of above-the-line talent, actors, directors, and occasionally writers. The changes in the taxation system encouraged larger film producers, a larger amount of film producers to go independent. February 5th, 1919. Mary Pickford, Charles Chaplin, Douglas Fairbanks, and D.W. Griffith from United Artists, the first independent film studio in America. Each held 20% stake, with the remaining 20% held by lawyer William Gibbs McAdoo, son-in-law to the former Treasury Secretary of the President Woodrow Wilson. The idea was hatched when Fairbanks, Chaplin, Pickford, and cowboy star William S. Hart were traveling around the U.S. selling Liberty bonds to help WW1 effort. Veterans of Hollywood, the four stars began to discuss forming their own company. They added D.W. Griffith, and Hart dropped out. When Richard A. Rowland, head of Metro Pictures, heard the news, he said, "The inmates are running the asylum." Jason, inmates running the asylum? Fact, fiction, or somewhere in between?
I'd say probably somewhere in between, but yeah, I mean, it was the start of, like, especially like actors when they were creating production companies to produce their own stuff. It's similar to that.
Well, it's very, very much so. Of course, Chaplin and Pickford were already involved as independent producers,
Mm.
producing through different studio deals. Fairbanks had his own deal at another studio, and D.W. Griffith, being the most powerful director of the time, had a deal. But both of theirs were limited. Now, of course, what Chaplin, as we both know, was very artistic and wanted his freedom. So I think that on some level, you could look at him as more of the driver, where maybe he was the one outside of the rest of them who was doing a little bit more things dramatically. And I see a couple questions up there. You want to throw something up?
I am not. Oh wait, there they are. Okay. Sorry, I'm having trouble with this. Mackenzie asks, "Hey Jay, when will Craving start shooting? Did you have a distribution plan? Do you believe this distribution plan will?" Sorry, I can't read this.
Will the distribution plan yet? Believe the distribution plan will really define your angle and theories. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, I got it. So, I'm sorry, guys. Hold on, give me 1 second. I think it's because, I can't read it at all.
What are you trying to read now?
I can't even see the comment.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh wait,
I
hold
didn't
on.
do it. Yeah.
Hold on. Okay, so sorry about that. So yeah, Craving is going to shoot in May. I have a couple of different distribution plans, but have not signed on to one yet. Though whichever way I choose, it'll work. I can't really get into the distribution yet.
Yeah, it's really early because you got to finish that fundraiser to even know what the movie's going to be first on some level. So, what else you got?
Somebody asked, I think Quibi failed because it was put behind a paywall in the era of YouTube. That's a bad gamble. Yeah, I do. I think that's part of it, and I think it was also like Sean had mentioned. It was exclusively like this thing. And you couldn't, wasn't it where you could only like watch it on your phone or something like that? Like you
There were
couldn't, or at
definitely
least initially.
Yeah, there were some limitations, but that could be just rollout in terms of that type of stuff. But yeah, but it definitely had putting it behind a paywall was a bad idea.
Yeah.
And we got a few more here.
Yeah. Lyle asks, I recommend watching the early 70s independent Mark Lester film, Bobby Joe and the Outlaw. It's really fantastic. I actually haven't honestly seen that, and I'm a Mark
Neither have
Lester
I.
fan. I will look it out. Yeah. And then we got
Alex Graff.
Are we on Alex? This is weird. Every time I hit one of these, anyway, Alex says, outstanding conversations, fellows. It's heartening to hear you two talk about the history of indie filmmaking intertwined with the present day landscape that we are all pioneering. Much appreciated. Oh, thank you. Very nice.
Very nice. Okay.
And Lyle says, I look forward to new videos. Sean is so articulate.
Oh, that's very nice. Thank you, Lyle.
Yeah.
Then we got another one.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing some film history. Learning about filmmaking should always include more than just technique, for definite.
We agree.
There's another one. Jason asks, is there a marketplace to hire remote producers? Do you all think a producer could still be productive if not in the area on a micro budget short?
We're exploring. Interesting.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it depends on what they're doing. I think that ultimately, I think a lot of production management could be served remotely. And Jason and I have even talked about theories of why don't you just set up a live feed camera on the set, where somebody could tap in and talk directly and just have it running all the time, kind of like what we're doing. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of concepts to be able to explore that. And I think there's a lot of ways for people to be effective, depending on what the duty is. And if you're not restricting yourself and how that's going to work. Jason?
Yeah, the only thing I really have to add is, as far as I know, there's not an existing marketplace for remote producers. I mean, you can go on to places like Facebook and you can find filmmaking groups where there are groups of producers that, congregate and network and stuff like that. So, you might be able to find somebody there. But for the most part, that at least that I know of, I don't know.
Staff Me Up is a website that hires producers, directors, and it more on the TV side, but they also have a section for micro budget types of stuff. And so because they hire a lot of people in and out of and freelance in that way and remote, there may be a way for you to find somebody who might be willing or looking for an opportunity. So I would suggest Staff Me Up, Mandy, or just listing it locally on Craigslist and see what you get back. So.
Right. And then my secondary thing on the remote producer thing, I would say in general, you want a producer to be, boots on the ground, but we're in a day and age where so much is done virtually. Like you could sit here and do, a virtual, video meeting with the producer and handle all your pre-production stuff. It literally a lot can be done remotely. So depending on the production and the size of it and what the producer's particular role is, it can work.
Yeah, absolutely. There's certainly definitely tasks that can be done, and can be handled by someone remotely, and often is handled by someone remotely, depending on what type of organization is at larger networks where they have an assignment desk where people are shooting all over the world, but the desk is in, at the station. So essentially wherever the corporate headquarters is, but they're running all of those all over the world. So they're just in contact and working with field producers. So it's really just a communication chain and having those different types of things. Was that the end of our questions? Okay. And well, thanks for that, guys. That's a great run. If you guys have any more, please let us know. And so I'll get past that. And of course, this is also a perfect opportunity for us to take a look at the new Cinema Tribe Zapruderfix documentary, Aliens versus Bigfoot, directed by Mr. Jeremy Normey, and of course produced by Mr. Jason Horton, Jay Horton, and myself. So here we go, Aliens versus Bigfoot.
I don't know. That's a good question. What would the general populace be more skeptical of, Bigfoot or aliens?
There is a much deeper reality that we exist in than what we're sold every day.
What is our purpose? What is our place in all of this?
I really think that it's okay that people go out in search of these things and want to know more about space and want to know more about life beyond where we are.
I love exploring its color, its joy, its mystery.
I think actually it would be quite interesting to look at those communities. So not looking so much at UFOs or at Bigfoot, but at the people that study them.
Aliens versus Bigfoot. I had a lot of fun with that one because I got to kind of catch up and learn a lot, having to kind of research stuff and understand the contrasting and the similarities and things between the two different sides, and trying to make more. It's not really a versus. It's more of a more of how do they kind of run in line on some level. But it's interesting to look at it is, would that alien fight the Bigfoot? Is a Bigfoot really an alien, and would they be fighting, or is it an interstellar family fight? It's the interstellar creature family fight. Ding ding. Anyway, so where do you fall on it? Do the aliens win or the Bigfoot?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely about the people that study these things as opposed to the phenomena themselves.
Yes.
And it's just a tack that I like taking on a lot of the paranormal documentaries that we're doing. Like they're not so much about, like, if we do an EVP documentary, it's not so much about EVPs, but more about the people that actually study the EVPs. And I personally find that more fascinating than the actual event a lot of the times.
Yeah, I do too, and I think that there's a way to kind of provide information along the way with that, so that you feel like you are getting some information, but you're also really kind of geeking out on kind of like that, that watching people do their jobs type of thing, which I think that we're really fascinated in. It's like we want to know the types of people that do it, and these types of documentaries are the types of people that do types of things. People who hunt Bigfoot or look for aliens or rescue animals or, study serial killers or whatever that case may be. So that whole fascination. So, and I think that's one of the best reasons to make and keep making documentaries. I love narrative. We both do. Mm-hmm. But I think that's like, I can see how you can spend your life being Ken Burns, because I mean, look at what you get to study and how you get to get into something where on some level the world outside of that doesn't exist while you're in that world. So definitely worth, you guys can check out Aliens versus Bigfoot. It is on Tubi. It is on, where else is it, Jason? It's in a few places.
Yeah, it's on one of the, I think it's on YouTube. It's not here on YouTube. It's on Amazon, I believe.
Yeah, that's one of ours.
Half a dozen, but Tubi is probably the best place to find it.
That is through Indie Rights.
Yeah.
So that's an Indie Rights title. So you can find more about that on their website too, and you can definitely find the trailer and find Aliens vs. Bigfoot on YouTube as well. So Thank you so very much for sticking with that. Their first press release read, "We believe this is necessary to protect," and the press release from United Artists, I know it was abrupt. The first press release from United Artists said, "We believe it is necessary to protect the exhibitor and the industry itself, thus enable the exhibitor to book only pictures that he wishes to play, and not force upon him other programs or films which he does not desire. We also think that this step is a positively and absolutely necessary to protect the great motion picture public from the threatening combinations and trusts that would force upon them mediocre productions and machine-made entertainment." Jason, we could put this up today on some level. I think we could throw out the same statement on some level, and it would have even deeper meanings because now the machine is bigger.
Yeah. I mean, they're all. I mean, there's so many different levels of things being made now, and markets to put it into. So yeah, it's just like that, but then multiplied by 20.
Yeah, it's definitely that whole idea that there is this, mountain of layers upon layers, and when you look back at this history and you see these repeating names of history, you understand how that control, or how that became to be, because it's obviously when you're there at the beginning, you're going to have a much better chance. It's just kind of how it works. So it really is one of those dynamics, and understanding that. So it's great to have things with a deeper meaning. So UA was officially incorporated April 17th, 1919. Although originally envisioned to be a production distribution outfit, UA eventually set up as a distribution company. The original terms called for Pickford, Fairbanks, Griffiths, and Chaplin to produce 5 pictures a year. But films were becoming more expensive and more polished, and running times were now 8 reels, 90 minutes. So wait a minute. We went from an industry that was like, oh no, you can only do 1 reel, and now you can do 8. And that's kind of the common time. So you can see how things have progressed. And this is only 1919. So we're only talking, maybe 20 years here, and things have changed that dramatically in terms of how much you're consuming it. It was believed that no matter how popular how popular a star was, that there was no way they could do more than 5 films per year and star in them. And it would be ultimately too much. By 1924, Griffith had dropped out of the company. And it had starting to change. So Jason, it sounds like this big enterprise is already having problems, that they're kind of not able to figure out the formula. What do you think it really is? Is it just think because it is on some level the lunatics running asylum, and maybe they underestimated what the studio bosses did, or they just need time to figure it out?
I think they needed time to figure it out. I mean, I do think whenever independents like step up right at first, I think there are growing pains. Like there's a reason that certain things are done certain ways, in the studio system. It's just because they've done it over and over, and there's sometimes it takes a new entity some time to find its way.
Absolutely, and that's the benefit, and why there's a standard of quality that can be maintained by the studio system, but then also can be a lack of creativity as well, because it starts to stagnate upon itself unless it brings in new people. So by breaking off this way and wanting to show the public and show themselves what they could do, they were taking on their artistic chops, taking on their artistic responsibilities, trying to explore exactly where they could absolutely go. So it's absolutely one of those things. So I think that's we are kind of towards the end of this one. This is a little bit shorter one because we're in a transition with this one. So we will be picking up from seeing the kind of where UA goes, and following more of kind of where the American indies start to grow out, and also looking in some case studies. And as I promised, we still will be exploring some of the foreign markets. So we have plenty of distribution to get into, and more to talk about, because I guess the weekly read is all about reading about distribution. And also, I think that we'll also be talking about some current things. I've started reading a lot of the daily variety intelligence reports, which I always do anyway, but there's a lot more, and there's a lot that have come out. I think that I think it would benefit us kind of breaking them down and talking about them from the bigger side of what's going on in the big studio system today and how we're surviving, so that we're kind of case studying it even more directly, and to give ideas in more of a general terminology. I think that's what the benefit of our conversation is often we can kind of micro in on something. And I definitely think that we're going to do, and then maybe we'll do this next week. We'll kind of see if anybody cheers in for that. But we had discussed doing an Amazon kind of an in-depth dive on Amazon. So maybe it's time to maybe do that one, because that might be something that I know folks are interested in as we talk about all these different evolutions. So that's definitely in the pike. Go ahead.
And there's new stuff going on there.
Yeah. So we may decide, you never know what you're going to come back and get on the weekly read. We try to stay topical on what's going on with what we're doing, and also what's going on in the world. So we know we'll either be picking up on the story, or we'll be looking for what's going on right now. So it's always great to have you there. So we'll continue to look at that and keep going. So let's keep the conversation going. Let us know if you have some topics you would like us to cover here on the Weekly Read. And by the way, if you have any questions, please let us know. And Jason, what do you got coming up next week on the Jay Horton YouTube channel?
I have a couple. I have an interview with a filmmaker turned YouTube star, Jeff Firmus. I've interviewed him twice over the last 6 months. This is his, I think this is his second interview I've done with him. Awesome. And I have a short video coming out about delivering titles to Film Hub.
Excellent. And they get in touch with you, of course, through so many different ways, but you can mainly find you through Craving these days, I would think.
Yeah. Cravingmovie.com. But you can find me at the Jay Horton pretty much anywhere.
And next week we'll have a Cura code for World One TV, where you'll be able to get a free month of our service and check it out. So I'm hoping a lot of you folks will be able to check it out and kind of tell us what you think. It's definitely been an adventure for all of us here. Certainly you can find me at Sean Alden Reed and on IG, and you can find us through World One TV, of course, on the Facebook page, or try my company website, New Cinema Tribe. So be here next Friday, February 25th, 2022 at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific for the Weekly Read. Thanks to Jay Horton for the use of his channel. And of course, thank you so very much for watching. And you know what? I'm out.